take any higher energy level, and suppose this is higher energy level, and I suppose say I'll take a lower energy level somewhere here. This is a lower energy. When I take lower energy level and higher energy level, we know from the from our intuition that the amount of energy that is coming down or going up, whatever you take it. Here I'm taking another one line here, just a minute. Then we can now write here, this is the lower energy level, this is the number of atoms in the higher energy level N2, this is the number of atoms in the lower energy level N1, this is the higher energy level E2, and this is the lower energy level E1. Now Boltzmann stated that always there will be more number of atoms in the lower energy level because it's a equilibrium state, and if you supply energy or temperature if you increase, there may be one or two atoms at the top, but always the number of atoms that are there in the lower energy level is high compared to the higher energy level E2. So how many number of atoms will be there in the higher energy level at a given temperature compared to lower energy level? That relation is given by Boltzmann. So in the above equation, we know all the constants A21, B12, B21 are Einstein coefficients of spontaneous emission. Sorry, that is absorbed, okay, induced absorption, emission, and spontaneous emission. So now if you look at this equation again and insert that the Boltzmann equation states that the number of atoms in the lower energy level to the number of atoms in the higher energy level ratio is equal to e power the difference between the energy levels E2 minus E1 by kT, where T the temperature at which you are we are following the reaction or we are seeing the transition, and K is Boltzmann constant. So if you write this E2 minus E1 as h nu, I can now replace this by h nu here, and therefore I write this equation simply as e power h nu minus kt. Therefore, now we look at the another important relation, this relation, which we have derived in the previous slide. So if I now look at this slide here, n1 by n2, I have here n1 by n2. So you try to substitute the n1 by n2 somewhere here in this place. If I substitute that in this place, you can see that the value of n1 by n2 can be replaced by e power h mu by kt. So if I do that, I will get here very simply the equation will become something like this. Rho mu, this is rho mu, is equal to a1 by b, a21 by b21 as it is. Then n1 by n2 is replaced by here h nu minus kt, and b12 by b21 as it is, I am writing it is. This is the same thing as this. And we have minus 1 is also there, here minus 1 is also there. Therefore, you can now see that, okay, the equation, if you compare the Einstein equation with the equation what we are here doing, and you suppose that this is the energy density given out by the laser. I suppose that laser is simply a source which gives out you light, just like a what we call it as black body. You know that black body also gives the radiation out when it is heated to some temperature, or it absorbs all the light, that is it is uh, absorbed previously. Therefore, most important consequence here is that this equation can be compared with black body radiation. So now I am writing here black body radiation given by Planck's law. Planck's law will give you the energy density, that means energy per unit lambda. Energy density means energy per unit lambda emitted by a black body. And this is the equation derived by Max for a black body, which actually if you draw energy density by taking it on this axis E lambda, D lambda, we call it as, and I take lambda according to Maxwell's law, this will be something going maximum and then it was. So this is the law. Okay, this is due to Maxwell's distribution of energy for a black body. So I think you can follow this. Yes, any doubts from here? Are you following? So if I go here and see these ones, okay, I now compare the values of the two equations. Here A1, A21 by B21 must play the role of 8 pi by HC cube. And okay, and we have this equation as usual. This is the same equation we have, and therefore this relation, if I after comparing, you will come to a conclusion that this step must be equal to 1. So therefore, yeah, when I compare the Einstein equation of stimulated emission, spontaneous emission, and induced absorption, I can able to see that this equation is almost similar to or equal to the black body radiation distribution derived by Maxwell. Hence, by comparing these two, we can see that the values B21 and is equal to B12 and A21 by B21 ratio is equal to this. So therefore, if I look at these two equations, we will have another important conclusion that to get stimulated emission, these two coefficients are equal. This is the equation. B21 is due to the transition from higher level to lower level, and here if I look at A21, this is the transition from higher level to lower level. But however, these equations are most important to see that to get laser action, most important thing is that you should have more number of atoms in higher energy level than lower energy level. And by this equation also you can tell that if I have only two energy levels, those two energy levels, if I say, okay, simply those two energy levels, if I look at one energy level here, another energy level here, two energy levels here of E1 and E2, then the atoms which are there in the higher energy level, suppose say 2, 3, 4 energy atoms are. If two of them has fallen down, then I have only 50% atoms here and 50% atoms here. Therefore, by pumping at any time from E1 to E2 by using external source, okay, you cannot achieve higher number of atoms in E2 than E1 if I have only two energy levels. Therefore, the most important is that a two-level system means that the system having only two energy levels E1, E2 cannot be used to get population inversion because by the time you send some of them up, they will fall down because they complete their lifetime. Almost you have 50% up and 50% down. Therefore, you cannot go on having 60% in E2 and 40% in E1. Maximum is 50-50. Hence, two-level energy system cannot be used to produce laser because you cannot achieve population reduction. So two-level system, okay, is not for producing, not for producing lasers. So you have minimum more than two or okay. So thereby you have to see that you should have more number of energy levels than a single energy level or a two energy level. So now we will go to the next slide. We will see this, how it happens. Now we have seen spontaneous emission and stimulated emission. I am comparing them. While comparing, you can see that the comparison, the spontaneous emission always try to give only incoherent light, whereas the stimulated emission will give rise to the incoherent beam. Therefore, spontaneous emission is always seen the emission in general light sources, whereas stimulated emission is shown only in lasers. So there are some differences between spontaneous emission and stimulated emission. So these will give rise to the difference between an ordinary light and a light that is having coherence, which is called as the stimulated emission. And next we'll see another important one. Look at this. We have seen already to get. So for laser action, what do you require? You require population inversion. Population inversion means having more number of atoms in the excited state than the ground state. That means usually we'll have more number of atoms in the ground state and less number of atoms in the excited state. But if you have something like more number of atoms in the excited state than the ground state, we call it as population inversion. So population inversion is a must for the laser action. So we have seen in the earlier class also that the ground state contains more number of atoms, but now try to use some external method to push atoms from ground state to excited state. Then they will come down from excited state to ground state, releasing some energy. So that is the population inversion. So the first important aspect is that population inversion. So the population inversion helps us to get lasing action. But this population inversion can be obtained by different means. That means you excite the atomic system by using a flashlight, xenon light, or you can use an electric discharge like tube lights, or you can use a forward bias just like a diode, or you can use chemical means, or you apply some mechanical means. So population inversion means that having more number of atoms in the excited state than the ground state, and this can be achieved by pumping atoms from ground state to excited state with external energy source. That external energy source may be due to incident light called optical pumping, or by using electricity called electric discharge, or you apply some forward bias and take the electrons to and electrons and holes to higher energy level, or use chemical reaction to obtain population inversion, or use any other mechanical process, or use another laser to get population inversion also. So thereby you have different means of achieving population inversion. The process what we use to get population inversion by the application of external energy is called pumping. So we need pumping. So the pumping is to get or to achieve population inversion, use external energy and take the atoms from ground state to higher energy state. So the process of taking atoms from lower energy state to higher energy state with the help of external source is called pumping. Pumping helps us to obtain population inversion. So population inversion is one of the most important condition to get laser action and thereby laser light out of the given atomic or molecular system. Now, the another important thing is that to get laser, you should have an energy level that could be capable of living long time. Otherwise, you don't have a time to push the atoms down by the supply of external energy. So, you also know that thereby we can now see that the external energy used for pumping to get population inversion is not only the sufficient condition, you have to have another condition of having more number of a state which is having longer lifetime. So longer lifetime means that this energy state should be capable of holding the atoms for longer time, maybe in milliseconds. So therefore, I am now showing the process of another important lasing action is metastable state. So metastable state is a long-lived state or longer lifetime state. A longer lifetime state is one which is generally more lifetime than normal state. Normal state will have a lifetime of 10 to the power minus 8 seconds, whereas the metastable state, even though it is not stable for longer time, it will have lifetime more than this, maybe having 1 millisecond. So if I compare these two states of normal state having 10 to the power minus 9 seconds and 1 millisecond, the difference is 10 to the power almost 6. Means you are capable of increasing the time by 10 to the power 6 seconds, which is very, very huge for us. So thereby, the minimum requirements for lasing action, if you want to get lasing or laser light from a atomic or a molecular system, what we want is the lasing. First, we should have a population inversion. So population inversion is nothing but having more number of atoms in the excited state than the ground state. So this by itself cannot be created. So the population inversion can be created by using external energy and push the atoms by absorption to higher energy level. That can be achieved by using a mechanism called pumping. Okay, so pumping is important. And once you pump, you'll get population inversion. To get the population inversion, third is that you require a metastable state. A metastable state is a state that have more lifetime. Metastable state is a state having more lifetime than the normal state. Hence, the foremost requirements for lasing action are three: population inversion, pumping, and metastable state. So, metastable state is a long-lived state. So, but in some materials, not all materials, they will provide the metastable states. So thereby there exists some states in a given substance with more lifetime. So that's why I have given milliseconds uh, states. That means lifetime of the state is some milliseconds. So when we have that millisecond lifetime energy levels, there is a possibility for us to push the atoms at all of them simultaneously down to get a coherent beam of light from the system. So once you know it, now look at this system. Once I have an energy level E1, I have an energy level E2, okay, and I am pumping the atoms from here to the higher energy level. So they are going here. But this state is not a metastable state. As this is not a metastable state, the atoms will fall down immediately to the another available closest energy level E3. So E3 is a metastable state whose lifetime is more. Therefore, atoms falling from E2 to E3, they stay here more time, and therefore we have a population between these two levels. That means here E1 has only one, but whereas E3 higher energy level has more number of atoms, which is called population inversion. But the atoms, when they are coming from E2 to E3, they will not emit any radiation because the the energy difference between E2 and E3 is so small that okay uh, the energy that is dissipated when it is coming from E2 to E3 level is liberated in the form of heat. That means when the atom is coming from E2 level to E3 level, it will not emit any radiation. It will emit and lose the energy in the form of heat. That's why we call it as non-radiative transition. Non-radiative transition is a non okay is a transition that is due to absorb that is due to emission of the energy in the form of heat. But when you are coming to E3 to E4, E3 to E4, the energy difference is large. Therefore, when the atom is falling, it loses its energy in the form of radiation. That radiation will be in the form of a laser. Hence, thereby we can see that here the population inversion will help us to get a coherent beam coming from E3 to E4. After the atoms reaching E4, they don't stay here because it is not a metastable state, it is a normal state. Thereby, after the lifetime, they will fall down and the atoms will come. So population inversion is between now E3 and E4. Hence, we will now look at the next slide, which will tell you what are the basic requirements for a laser system and what are the components. Any laser system look at this Uday Banu, from E2 to E3. Okay, if I take it E2 to E3, the heat is liberated but radiation is not emitted. All those downward transitions during which light is not emitted or radiation is not emitted is called non-radiative transition. It is a very quick process and the energy difference is so small, and that energy is only liberated in the form of heat and given to lattice. And this heat is used to increase the temperature of the atomic system or the substance you are taking in. Okay. And this heat is a negative quantity for us, because if the heat is more number again will go and randomization takes place and you don't get the stimulated emission. It may lead to spontaneous emission. Thereby, this heat should be minimized. That we will see in the subsequent slides. So heat is, so I look at here the various parts of a laser, which we call it as components of a laser. Components of a laser means that what are the minimum components a laser system should have, whatever the type of laser we are taking. If you want to have a lasing action, you need to have atoms in higher energy level. So when you should have an atoms in higher energy level means that there must be some substance, some collection of atoms, some collection of ions, or some collection of okay, molecules. These collection of atoms, molecules, ions make a substance, and that substance is responsible for giving atoms or molecules to be excited from ground state to higher energy state. Thereby we'll get a population inversion. Hence we require a medium, and that medium is a collection of large number of atoms. Therefore, energy levels required by a laser transition are provided by atoms, molecules, or ions. So that substance we call it as active medium. So active medium is nothing but a substance which will take in a special purpose to create a more energy population inversion. And we can see that so active medium is a substance which is nothing but a medium, or active medium is a material. So this active medium is composed of two parts. The first part is called host, and the second part is called active centers. Host is simply a material which hosts the defects. Defects are now active centers. In the crystallography, we have seen that we have some regular periodic arrangement of a crystal in which we add dopants or impurities to get improved performance of the substance in terms of their properties. Therefore, host is a material or a crystal lattice, and active centers are simply the dopants or the impurities we add. Here you remember that host will not make any important contribution to the lasing action, because the active centers are responsible for providing metastable states, and metastable states will be populated, will be giving you population inversion. And therefore, the next one, which is the important component or part of a laser, is pumping source. We know that to get lasing action, more number of atoms must be there in higher energy level than lower energy level, and this state of having more number of atoms is called population inversion. To achieve population inversion, we want an external source to take the atoms from lower energy state to higher energy state. That external agency we call it as pump source. So pump source or pumping source is another important part of a laser to get population inversion. Once you have this, to get a coherent beam, we want a matching photon to initiate or start lasing action. And that lasing action is given due to the next component of laser called resonating cavity. The word resonating cavity means that it is a cavity or it is a some place between which you can keep your active medium. So this place between these two mirrors or something like this, we call it as the resonating cavity. So the word resonating cavity, what we are using is most important, saying that laser is a resonance phenomena. We will get resonance between various or maybe E1 and E2 or E3 and E4 energy levels. So laser is a resonance phenomena through which we'll get coherent beam of light coming out of it. And in some systems, we require cooling. Why cooling? We have seen in the earlier slide that some transitions are non-radiative transitions which will give rise to heat. And we have to cool that heat, otherwise the heat that is released will make the active medium to get hot, and thereby the laser characteristics are spoiled or the laser characteristics will be lost. Hence, we need a cooling system. Hence, I am repeating, the components of a laser are importantly three. One is an active medium, which is nothing but a substance and a collection of atoms, molecules, ions. This substance is generally a crystal or maybe a gas or maybe a liquid, but it must host some defect centers which are responsible for giving the metastable states. Therefore, active medium is of two types, host and active centers. To get population inversion for lasing action, because necessary thing to get lasing action is that you should have more number of atoms in the excited state than ground state. So therefore, the most important one is to have the population inversion that is given by pumping source. Next is the resonating cavity. Resonating cavity means that you should able to get a coherent beam. Means that the light coming out of the active medium should emit light waves which are in phase. So all those waves which are in phase will give rise to a coherent beam. For that coherence, we require a resonating column. So what is this resonating column? We will see shortly in the coming slides. And to decrease the heating because of non-radiative transitions and other transitions, we require cooling system. Next, these are the important aspects of any laser system. So I'm now going to show you this picture. So I am taking an active medium. This is an active medium. Active medium is nothing but a substance, and this active medium should be taken into excited level so that more number of atoms will be there in excited state than ground state, and hence this process is called a pumping process. And once the pumping is placed and given, the atoms start falling down. Once the atom is falling from high energy level to lower energy level, this will release a photon like this. And this photon will go and hit here where I am keeping a mirror. And I am keeping another mirror here. There are two mirrors, one mirror here, another mirror here. Between the mirrors, I am keeping the active medium. So when I am keeping the active medium, you can see now that, okay, so the area or the space in between which you are keeping the active medium is called resonating cavity. So this is actually the distance between the two mirrors is called a resonating cavity. Why do we require the resonating cavities? For getting lasing action. Suppose say a photon is released here and a photon comes up to the mirror here which is partially reflecting. Here is fully reflecting, means that light cannot come out of this mirror, but light can come from this mirror only. So there is no possibility of the light coming out from the fully reflecting mirror, but the light can come from partially reflected one. So once a photon is released, this photon goes and hits this mirror and it gets reflected. And while it is going reflecting back, it goes through this and hits here and it takes another reflection. So during each reflection, okay. Hello, now can you hear me? Is it okay now? Are you able to, yeah? Are you able to hear me? Hello?
Yes. Sir, roll number 42 is trying to join the meeting,
Okay, ask them.
but he is not able to join.
Yeah, yeah. Ask them to send a chat. I will allow him. Ask them to send a chat so that I can see that I can allow him. Okay. So the most important part here you understand is that when 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 suppose say this is moving, this is the moving photon. When it goes and hits here, it gets reflected back. But look at this. Now, are you able to hear me? Hello? Hello?
Sir, there is some
Yes, sir.
disturbance in your voice.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now, I am writing here two energy levels. Suppose say one atom is here, another atom is here in the higher energy level E2. Now, by some means, by spontaneous emission, this atom has fallen down. So when this atom has fallen down, which gives you a radiation whose frequency h nu is equal to E2 minus E1. But remember, this is spontaneously dropped down photon whose energy difference is E2 minus E1. This is spontaneously one. And this spontaneously emitted photon comes here. Here I kept a mirror. And this gets reflected back. While coming back, it will have a frequency h nu. But at the same time, the atom which is there in the higher energy state, this atom looks at this photon. When looks at this photon, it thinks that if it also comes down, it will also able to give the same another photon of same frequency h nu, because this atom is also falling between these two energy levels. Therefore, what is happening here is that one atom which is moving in this direction is capable of initiating another atom to come down. So one photon going in this direction is now coming back. Only one photon I have supposed initially, which is spontaneously fallen photon. But this photon energy is h nu. When that photon energy is h nu, we now say that okay, this photon energy is h nu, and we say that the atom which is there at the higher level, it looks at the incoming photon and thereby it comes down, and while coming down it gives out another photon. Therefore I have photon 2 because of this transition, and photon 1 which is due to spontaneously fallen photon. So what actually happen is that these two photons will go together here at this, and therefore initially we have only one photon which is coming like this. This photon, while coming, it has initiated another photon here. Those, hello, hello. Yeah, now look at this. This is the most important consequence you have to understand. Okay, in this one, the most important concept is that one spontaneously fallen photon is going. It is initiating another atom to come down. So this photon goes, this goes. Two photons are coming and they take reflection and both of them will go. And they come here to the other mirror end and they take a reflection and they take a reflection here. When they take the reflection, while going, they make two more atoms in the excited state to come down. And while they are coming down, these two will give you two more photons. But all these photons are having same frequency h nu because they are falling between the same two energy levels, that is E1 and E2. Hence, all the photons between the two mirrors, this is M1, say M1 mirror and say M2 mirror. Between the two mirrors, whatever the photons that are generated will have same frequency. Now, these two photons will come here in addition to already the two photons that are moving in the system which get reflected back from the mirror 1. So we have 4 photons. That means photons are doubled. These will take a reflection, another reflection, and they, while going here, they make four more atoms to come down and they'll become 8. Likewise, for each return trip between the two mirrors, so whenever you're looking at the, so are able to see the screen? Yeah. Look at this. Okay. So these two mirrors, one is M1 and M2, how to make them to partially reflect and completely reflect? What I do is that I take a mirror like this and I just coat it back side of the mirror, okay, very heavily. Then it is completely reflecting. No light will go out of it. Whatever the light that is falling on it, it will take only reflection. No light will go like this. But if I take this mirror, this is lightly coated. Okay, so thereby it gives the light out of it. So therefore we have fully reflecting mirror, partially reflecting mirror, means that this is 100% reflection and this is 99 or say 95% reflection to 95% reflection. Thereby you can see here that the light, the photons, one photon is going like this, it hit it, coming back, while coming back it initiate another atom to come down and it gives one more photon. So two photons are now there, two photons will come here. These two photons take reflection, while going they initiate two more atoms in the higher energy state. Because it's a metastable state, more number atoms will be there at more time, they will come down. While coming down, you can see that the two atoms will give rise to two more waves. Therefore, I'll get 4 rays. And these 4, the 4 will come back. I'll get 8. Likewise, you can see that every round trip of photons between the two mirrors makes that these two makes them always okay. So these two mirrors help us to get amplification. So for one round trip we have 1, and second round trip we have 2, and the third round we have 4, and these 4 when they are going will become 8, and likewise photons are multiplying. But you see that very important thing is that L is the length of the one. So you can imagine these two mirrors. Hello? Some of you could not able to join here. We are taking here a break here. Then I'll start after 30 minutes. Meanwhile, those who are there online, they can ask questions.